Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5. So glad that you could join us. So glad that you joined us this morning. If you did at 10 a.m., you missed a fantastic live show. But now on to another great live show. And I have a bunch of people here, or a couple of people that I want to speak to. You'll see them soon. But we have the perfect person to talk to us about a breaking news story. So stand by for that. Let me just inform you, update you on what is going on now. And it is actually quite stunning. This turn of events. There's been a lot of talk, especially at the Defense Department and elsewhere in the Trump administration, about diversity, equity, and inclusion hires, DEI hires. Their definition is that, these DEI hires, that means that these folks are not qualified, and they should be, shouldn't be hired because of, for whatever reason. Maybe it was the color of their skin, maybe they are a woman, or whatever, for whatever possible reason. So we're going to discuss a major, as we can say here on streaming, a major F up by the Trump administration, and specifically the Secretary of Defense himself, none other than Pete Hegseth. So as you're joining us here, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you hit the like. It affects the algorithm. You can subscribe. It's at the bottom of the screen, and also become a member. It is, you keep us streaming if you do that. So we appreciate all of your support. So let's go and get the breaking news in and discuss. So as we are going on tonight on the air, if you want to say, or we start the stream, we're in the middle of perhaps the single greatest national security scandal in American history. That is a question. Are we right now? Perhaps we are in the middle of the greatest security, breach or scandal in American history. That is what we're going to talk about tonight. Could a member of the Trump administration actually face accountability and lose their job over this one? That's the truth. Breaking just a few hours ago, we know now that top U.S. officials mistakenly texted war plans to one of the president's most hated journalists, a shocking oversight by those in the Donald Trump administration. The bombshell comes to us from The Atlantic magazine, The Atlantic report, or The Atlantic, I should say. They're reporting that shows screenshots of a lengthy thread of the messaging app Signal. I don't know if you guys have Signal, if you know what it is, but it is an encrypted private messaging site. Still not approved, though, for highly classified information like that. It included clandestine texts from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, and others. I believe it was Director of National Intelligence on there as well. We'll get clarification from our guests in moments. Those messages were about the logistics of and the apparent need for a military strike on Houthi targets in Yemen on March 14th. That strike, to send a message and to help clear Middle East shipping lanes, was ultimately carried out and killed 53 people. The messages, which a White House National Security Council spokesperson said Monday appeared to be authentic, gave unprecedented insight into how the Trump administration communicates behind closed doors. So joining me now, the person who can discuss this, I believe, better than almost anyone, is John Kiriakou. He is an author, an American author, a journalist, and the former intelligence author. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. John.
Thank you.
First of all, where is this on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it perhaps a 14? What is it?
Yeah, this is big. This is a 9. This isn't openly selling our secrets to the Russians or to the Chinese, but my God, this is a screw up of historic proportions. We have here, I'm going to say it up front, just because I think it's probably the most important information. This is a violation of the Espionage Act in at least 2 different ways. In my own case, I spent 15 years at the CIA, and I blew the whistle on the CIA's torture program. I was prosecuted. Even though torture was illegal, I was still prosecuted. So in my case, federal judge Leonie Brinkema redefined espionage, and the definition from my case has been the definition going forward. It's very simple. It is providing national defense information to any person not entitled to receive it, period. Now, in my case, my attorney actually got up and said, Your Honor, are you saying that a person can commit espionage accidentally And she said, that is exactly what I'm saying. So what we have here, on the one hand, is Jeffrey Goldberg, a senior editor from The Atlantic, being added to a chat that included the vice president, the secretary of defense, the secretary of state, the national security advisor, and the CIA director, in which they're talking about attacking the Houthis in Yemen, which we did a couple of days ago. This apparently took place on the 15th of March. So number one, he was not entitled to receive the information. That's a violation of the Espionage Act. Mm-hmm. Number two, nobody's allowed to use Signal for top secret classified conversations.
Yeah, what is that?
What in the world were they thinking? And apparently this thread was initiated by Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor. That is a second violation of the Espionage Act. And we also know that at least one of the people on the thread has not yet been confirmed, meaning that his security clearance is at the secret level. The conversation, because it was about military targeting, was at the top secret level. That's a third violation of the Espionage Act. Wow. Now, in some cases, the Espionage Act can be a death penalty offense. It wouldn't be in a case like this. There are 4 levels of espionage. This is a 10-year per violation violation. So if Donald Trump were to say, hey, my national security advisor should be charged with espionage, he would likely get 3 counts of it for this screw up. That is what a big screw up this is. It's incredible. I've been in Washington 42 years, Don. I've never seen anything like it.
Really? And this is not hyperbole, right? You're not being hyperbolic.
No. In all those years, I was at the CIA for 15 years. I was at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for years after that. I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, John Kiriakou just gave us a really great analysis of this entire piece that's in The Atlantic right now. So if you're just joining us, we're going over the breaking news. And I believe, I think it was, Pete Hegseth who is at least the initiator of this. Is that the way the article reads?
Well, the Washington Post, you know what? I haven't had a chance to see The Atlantic, but I did catch the push notification from the Post. And it says that the National Security Advisor appears to have initiated the call, Michael Waltz, on Signal, the encrypted messaging platform.
Okay. So then why are they using Signal?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, in all honesty, I can't even fathom that somebody in such a senior national security position would be so stupid to use a publicly commercially available app, even if it's encrypted, to talk about top secret targeting information. Look at it this way too. Sure, Signal is encrypted, but it can be intercepted as you're typing it. It only encrypts itself when you hit the send button. But if NSA can encrypt it as you're typing it, so can the Russians and the Chinese and the North Koreans and the Israelis and everybody else. So FaceTime, or not FaceTime, but what do you call the other one?
WhatsApp?
WhatsApp is encrypted. Would you put top secret military targeting information on WhatsApp? Of course not.
I don't even like to put like my, PayPal information when someone's like, how do I send you money on there?
It's just nuts. I can't believe it happened.
So according to the article, let's see, it said that it was sent encrypted now. And as we know, many people who do this know, but if you can remember there was this, during the impeachment, they were talking about classified and top secret information and how lawmakers receive that information. And that is through a highly classified, highly private SCIF. You have to go into a government SCIF, right?
Yes.
So that that information can be protected. None of this happened here. This is outside of a SCIF or anything.
Oh my God, yes. Every national security agency, every agency that deals with secret and top secret information has at least a SCIF. At the CIA, every room is a SCIF. So you can leave stuff out on your desk, on your chair, whatever, that's fine. That's not the way it is elsewhere. For example, on Capitol Hill, the Senate and House Intelligence Committees have their own SCIFs. But if another member of Congress wants to either read classified information, receive a classified briefing, or discuss classified information, he has to go to the basement of the House or the Senate.
Wow.
And the office of the House and Senate security officers has a skiff down there. One time when I was working for John Kerry, he wanted to have a conversation about Yemen. And all he did was he called me, said, hey, I have a question about Yemen. We had to walk down to the basement of the Senate and go into the skiff, close the door. And then he said, what do you think of this stuff that's going on in Yemen? That's how serious this is. You can't just sit there on your cell phone and, oh, that's okay, it's in Signal. And I don't know if you happen to see the statement from the spokesperson of the National Security Council. He said that what we should take from this is that our officials at the very top level are personally engaged in trying to protect American citizens.
No.
It was so insulting. Like, seriously, that's what you're going to go with? Instead of saying, this was a lapse in judgment, it's not going to happen again, we've asked the Justice Department to investigate, and then hope it blows over, it goes away after a while. But that's what you're going to go with? Well, at least they're talking about important stuff, so you know that they're actually working during the course of the day.
All right, let's put it up. Let's put up the article, and then I'm going to get some of the response from folks, and you can hear what they're talking about. So this is it. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. U.S. national security leaders included me in a group of chat about an upcoming military strikes in Yemen. I didn't think it could be real. Then bombs started falling. Let me make this bigger. Let me help myself here since I probably need new glasses. It says the world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern time on March 15th that the United States was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about the weapons packages, targets, and timing. This is going to require some explaining. And then he goes into a very lengthy article. And that's why I said Pete Hegseth, because maybe Mike Walls, the director of the National Security Advisor, maybe he started this chain, but for some reason, maybe Pete Hegseth or what have you included this reporter accidentally in the chain. The story technically begins shortly after the Hamas invasion of southern Israel in October 2023. The Houthis, and then he goes on to explain the whole thing. But then all of a sudden, he ends up on this chat. He did not believe it was real. He thought it was a hoax. It was possibly AI, someone messing with him. And then he started to check, and he said the bombs started falling in Yemen. And he said, holy crap, this was real. Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, sent out a very simple response to this on her social media site. She said, you got to be kidding me. Now, I'm sure she wanted to put an F bomb in there, which I would have, since we're talking about that. I know she wanted to say, you've got to be effing kidding me. But there was no kidding. And do you understand her response? Is that appropriate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even Hillary Clinton, who played fast and loose with classified documents herself, that scandal was nothing compared to this scandal. This is active military targeting information. The classifications don't go any higher than that. I mean, lives are on the line in a case like that.
But what I was going to say, John, is what about her emails? Well, her emails, is that a fair comparison? I'm just being snarky, but
no,
I mean,
no, it's not a fair comparison because her server was protected. It wasn't out there, for foreign countries to intercept. Since my CIA days, I've gone to, the other side in terms of government transparency and, national security and things like that. And so I have a lot of friends who are in the orbit of WikiLeaks and some of these, freedom of information organizations. And they tell me that we should always assume that chat apps, even the encrypted chat apps like Signal, have a backdoor, which means that the CIA is able to get in and read your encrypted emails without having to actually crack the encryption. That as the code is being written, they say to the CIA, hey, listen, here's the code. If you want to read it, here it is. but we also have to assume that other capable countries have cracked the code. For example, when we can't crack a code, as in the San Bernardino attack a couple of years ago, we go to the Israelis and we say, hey, can you crack this code for us? And they always do. And usually it's a private Israeli company that does it. It's very expensive, but they can do it. So we have to assume that the Israelis, probably the British, the French, the Russians, the North Koreans, maybe the Iranians, everybody else is looking at these chat threads.
Let's talk about it, because someone said not the DEI hire leaking classified information. I don't know if you can see the comment, but Kev, the creator, says that. And we know, I mean, again, someone who's being a bit sarcastic here, but remember how they railed against people who were hired in the government and they were unqualified and that they made all sorts of mistakes. How is this in comparison to that? Because this is a blunder that, you know, even maybe the least qualified person would make or should make.
Arguably. Well, here we are just hours after this story broke, and already Republican members of Congress are calling for Mike Waltz to resign.
Really? Okay, let's go through this. This is Pete Hegseth talking about the last administration, saying under the last administration we look like fools. Here he is.
Previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now that was on the Boeing, right? The fighter jet. How do we look now?
Yeah. You know, you have to think about what kind of conversations are taking place at MI6 or at, you know, whatever they're calling the KGB these days, and all these different, even friendly intelligence services. They have to be thinking, oh my God, these are the people that we're dealing with. Remember, we've got these liaison relationships where we trade information literally every single day, not just the Five Eyes of US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, but we have liaison relationships with most countries around the world, even enemy countries, where if there is intelligence that's in our interest to share, like counterterrorism, counterproliferation, things like that, we'll have that liaison relationship. They have to be saying, oh my God, is our information that we give the Americans safe if they're using Signal and
That's
accidentally?
Legit. That's a legit question, John. I mean, come on. So
it is.
What does this mean then for our relationship with our allies?
Well, I would actually, if I were a foreign intelligence leader, I would call in the CIA station chief who's assigned in my country, and I would say, explain yourselves. How does something like this happen? And is the information I'm giving you being protected? What guarantees can you give me?
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. Donald Trump on The Atlantic article when questioned by, here it is.
The story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
Okay.
I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah. That is always his thing. I don't know that. I don't know him. I don't know her. I don't understand who. What are you talking about? And what does that have to do with the attack, whether it was effective or not? This is about a lack of protocol or breach in security and the safety of the American people, and really it's the safety of the world.
And you spent many, many years at CNN. You know, as a journalist, that when you have a blockbuster story like this, the very first thing you're going to do is call the White House. Before you publish it, you're going to call the White House to get a comment, right?
He knows.
And the first thing that the NSC spokesman is going to do is tell the National Security Advisor, who is going to run to the president and say, oh my God, the Atlantic is going to break a story in the next 5 minutes, and here's the screw up that we committed.
Yeah. That again, explain to our audience why you don't believe a word that he said. And then he goes on to insult the Atlantic because they're junk. So he tries to discredit them when the story they have confirmed from someone that it was true, that this story is likely true, and yet he insults the Atlantic. By the way, the Atlantic is doing very well last time I checked.
It is actually. It is. It's a not just a legitimate, news magazine. It's a news magazine for deeper thinkers. It's a serious outlet.
Yeah. And by the way, it's called The Atlantic now, which is theatlantic.com.
I keep calling it The Atlantic Monthly.
I call it the Atlantic Magazine, but they still have the magazine, but people just, you know what I mean? Magazines are not what they used to be. So it's the website now. It's The Atlantic, theatlantic.com. This is from the DNI. Tulsi Gabbard tweeted this. This is the director of national intelligence, which is shocking. I can't believe I'm calling Tulsi Gabbard the director of national intelligence. It's like, I can't believe I'm calling Pete Hegseth the secretary of defense. Any unauthorized release of classified information is a violation of the law and will be treated as such.
Yes.
Now, so then now what happens then?
Well,
all of these people going to get fired, or
that's the question. That's the $64,000 question right there. So what she's talking about is a process by which disclosures of classified information are reported to the Justice Department. So now what has to happen is her office, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, will file something called a crimes report with the FBI. And in this crimes report, she's going to say that the National Security Advisor leaked classified information at the top secret level. And I'll interrupt myself on this. There are 3 levels of classification: confidential, secret, and top secret. Confidential information, when leaked, can cause damage to the national security. Secret information causes serious damage to the national security. Top secret causes grave damage to the national security. And they're serious about these levels when you go to court. So she's going to file this crimes report with the Justice Department, and the Justice Department's going to do one of 2 things. It's going to refer it to the FBI for investigation, or it's just going to toss it in the burn bag and pretend it never happened.
And which one do you, if you had to bet money on it?
There is no possible way that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, will allow an active criminal investigation of the Secretary of Defense and the National Security Advisor.
Damn, as they say. This is Sam Stein reporting. Sam Stein is with the Bulwark, I believe. Now, here it is. This is what he says about Tulsi Gabbard's tweet. Goldberg says that the Signal Group chat started on March 13. Gabbard appeared to write in the chat minutes later. Gabbard sent this tweet the next day. The Houthi strikes happened 2 days later. So is she going to prosecute herself?
I know, right? She would have to report herself if she was a part of the tweet. She would have to report everybody that participated. Everybody that would be part of the investigation. See, this is what I mean when I say this is utterly unprecedented in Washington. Nothing like this has ever happened before, where the entire national security apparatus has been implicated in the leak of top secret national defense information.
Wow, what a dangerous web we weave. Let's see, what else do we have? This is Pete Hegseth in 2016 on people who leak military secrets. So we'll see if he abides by this. Here it is.
The standard operating procedure inside the Clinton Secretary of State office was to send emails that couldn't otherwise be printed to the maid to print them out of a secure area or from a secure area and then hand them off. Any security professional, military, government, or otherwise, would be fired on the spot for this type of conduct and criminally prosecuted for being so reckless with this kind of information. The fact that she wouldn't be held accountable for this, I think, blows the mind of anyone who's held our nation's secrets dear, who's had a top secret clearance like I have and others, who know that even one hiccup causes a problem, let alone a standard procedure like this.
There's always videotape for something. And
always.
Now what, John?
And I'm not defending Hillary Clinton, because what she did with her private server was wrong. That was a security violation. But, and don't laugh, when you work for the Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense or President or Vice President, even if you're the guy that sweeps the floor at the end of the day, you have a security clearance. Every janitor at the CIA has a security clearance. Even the guy at the Dunkin' Donuts outlet in the CIA cafeteria has a security clearance because of the area in which you work. So I'm not making excuses, but if Hillary Clinton did indeed send her maid to the printer to pick up the cables that she was printing, actually that maid had a clearance.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is the provision of national defense information to a person not entitled to receive it.
Yeah. Well, John, final words, unless you want to take some questions, maybe from we have people who are joining us who are part of our highest tier of membership. If you want to take some questions,
I'm delighted.
All right, so let me introduce you to some folks. We may have an updated list. So this is 11 Legends. If you become a member, then you get to be on the program depending on your level of membership. And this is the highest tier of our membership. And we have some updated legends here. Keisha's here, Jasmine's here, Maureen, Monique, Camille, Marla, Peggy, Andrea, Amanda, James, Marley, May Money, Anitra, Marlene, Roseanne, and Nicole. Now, thank you guys all for joining. And remember, the first time that we speak, it's a lightning round because we want to get everybody on, give everybody a fair shot at being on. So welcome. Raise your hand if you have a question. Anyone has a question for John? Otherwise, I will pose a question. Who's that?
This is Jasmine.
Oh, who is it? Go ahead. You're right. We have you up.
Is it Jasmine? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a quick question. You were talking about Signal and it being encrypted, but I'm wondering, how does a journalist get on the distribution list? Like, if you're sending a message, how do you even put that person into the distribution list to send that out?
Stand by, John, and just identify yourself because there's so many people on the screen, and my screen is like that big, so I can't see who it is. So who's speaking?
This is Jasmine speaking. This is
Oh,
Jasmine.
hi, Jasmine. So, but if I call on you and you raise your hand, just identify yourself. So, yeah, go ahead with Jasmine's question, please.
Jasmine, that's a great question. So, you have to do it in one of two ways. Either the reporter's name was already in the National Security Advisor's phone, and he mistook the name Goldberg for a different Goldberg, or he had to physically type in the number. But if you're just typing in a number, maybe you get a digit wrong. You're not gonna include the national security reporter from the Atlantic. So this was like a double screw up on that issue.
Off the top of your head, John, if you had to guess of who it could be, what Goldberg, or it could be, I don't know, it could be, I have no idea. But you think it was added because the first text, now he didn't say if he had been on a text before with Walls, but the first text that he said that was sent to him was from Pete Hegseth. So could Pete, who is a former television personality, could he have Goldberg possibly in his signal? Maybe he was a source at some point for something, and that's how he ended up there.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I think actually that's the more likely scenario.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why you would have any more than the 5 people that we said, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, the Vice President, the CIA Director, the DNI. Why would you add anybody else to that?
Yeah.
Anybody.
You guys were talking about this in the chat before, or as you were, coming on, folks were talking about it. Anybody else have a question? Raise your hand and please identify yourself for John if you have a question. Anyone else? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. So no one has a question, but I'm sure you guys have some comments. And I'm going to go to, because I know that she always has a comment. You know who I'm going to. So don't try to be shy or coy, Nicole. Go. She's like, oh, don't call on me, Don. What do you think of this story? I mean, remember, the women and the blacks and, the Latinos and the whatever, the people who have, who are disabled, those are diversity hires, or what do you call it? DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion hires. How do you feel about this?
Well, when you're either incompetent or intentional, this is going to happen. So, I mean, I'm saddened that we're not even 100 days in, and this has already happened. But I think everybody here expected this eventually, that this level of darkness is going to start affecting us on international levels. because it's either incompetence or it's intentional with these people. And when you put these types of persons in these incredibly important positions, this is going to happen. So it's just disappointing that it was this quick.
Yeah.
So
Jim, are you there? James Brim, are you there? Do you have a comment for John? You're muted, sir. James, you're muted. You're talking away. You look good, but we can't hear a word you're saying.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got you.
That.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there's nothing to look at here. It's the failing Atlantic, just like the failing New York Times, everything else. There's, what's really going to happen here? I mean, we're supposed to be protected, close the borders, we're all in a grave danger. And then look at what's happening. Look at what's happening within our own walls of our own government. And, we're just being distracted to look everywhere else. And nothing's going to come of it. Like he said, it's all going to go into the burn bag. So, it's one of those things. I'm glad from what you said earlier about, I'm glad it happened early in the administration, because we know what's happening. We know it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen more and more and more. Yeah. But what is it that we can do about it? That's the question. Doesn't seem to be a lot.
I don't know if John has an answer for that question.
I don't think anything's going to be done about it. It's
right.
Terrible. I think I'm going to make a prediction here. I think what we're going to see is there will be lip service about an investigation, and then 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, somebody will say, "Well, we did an investigation, and what the Atlantic reporter saw was not terribly important or highly classified, or it ceased to be classified once the bombs hit." And so there was no real violation of security protocols or of the Espionage Act. None of that's true, of course, but I think that's what we're going to end up hearing.
Yeah.
You missed the executive order that included the Atlantic on everything to do with the Houthis.
Exactly. There you go. That's even a better solution. I like that better.
Amanda, you got a comment for us?
Yeah, what really stood out to me in reading the dialogue between everything was the comments about Europe, how they truly feel about our former alliances, clearly with Europe.
Yes.
They always postured and everything like, well, we're not participating in NATO, or we're thinking about leaving them. They really did say that out loud, that we don't want to bail them out anymore. We don't want to help them anymore. And in the back of my head, I'm like, well, do we really mean that though? But what they really said in this chat is indicating that, yeah, they really do want that to happen. We don't want to be a part of that anymore. And that's just showing that we are truly now in the axis of evil, and we're not the good guys anymore.
Yeah, I was surprised at the clarity with which they criticized the Europeans in this chat. You're right. What they're saying out loud is what they're saying behind closed doors as well. And if I were a European leader, I would be genuinely worried about this. Now, on the other hand, we were warned, right? 3-4 weeks ago, Justin Trudeau on a hot mic said, hey, listen, when Trump talks about Canada being the 51st state, he's not joking. He's serious about this. And he was trying to warn other members of the Liberal Party and members of Parliament in Canada that they can't just pretend this isn't happening. He means this craziness.
Yeah.
And so we saw it again in this chat.
Yeah. May Money, I see that you are physically responding. I can't hear you, but I can see you.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, John, because honestly, I didn't hear about this until we got here. And my first reaction was, this must be the stupidest shit that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, how are you going to just let some drunkard go around and start sending drunk texts? I mean, he don't got a friend that tell him that's a bad idea. Hello, this is national security, top flight security of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you are way below that. This is insane. I'm not surprised. I almost just laughed. So I'm just like, thank you for being here and telling us about this, because this is some dangerous shit. I don't know what to do about it, but
I agree. Two things that May Money brings to mind. One is that no one had the wherewithal in that text to say, should we be discussing this over Signal, perhaps? Like no one even intimated that, and no one inquired after the Atlantic reporter left the chat. No one said, "Who are you? Why are you leaving?" Nothing.
Yeah, that's absolutely shocking to me. I get that most of these guys are outsiders. I get it. Hegseth came from Fox News, and well, Ratcliffe should have known better. The guy's the head of the CIA, and he was the DNI in the first Trump tour. Rubio has had a security clearance, but he's been on Capitol Hill, and rarely do those guys even invoke their security clearances. There's just not enough time in the day. But somebody at some point had to think, wait a minute. We're talking about top secret targeting information on our cell phones. It never occurred to anybody to say, wait a minute. We probably shouldn't be doing this.
Who's in the green sweatshirt top right? Go ahead.
Hi, John.
Hi,
This
I
is
can't see.
Keisha.
Hi, Keisha. Go ahead.
Hi, John.
Hi.
One of the things that strikes me about this administration continually is how, if I were doing this in my corporate job, if anyone in my corporate job did this, we would be in trouble. We have to go through security training every year just so we don't leak things that are not even that important. How is the US government being run so poorly? It's gobsmacking.
If you're one of the in crowd, you're okay. I'll tell you what I did. I blew the whistle on the CIA's torture program. I went public on ABC News back in 2007. It was a global story. And
did you face any repercussions for that?
I went to prison. And I am utterly unapologetic. So the FBI, though, determined that because torture is illegal, I hadn't committed a crime. And so they dropped 3 espionage charges. I had been charged 3 times. They dropped the charges. But then they went through my emails going back 10 years. And they found an email that a reporter had sent me. And he said, hey, on page 165 of your first book, you mentioned this guy, John. Can you introduce me to him? And I said, oh, I think you're talking about John Doe. I don't know whatever happened to him. That was a felony. I had confirmed the last name. Now, the name was never made public. And in my first conversation with the Justice Department, they offered me 45 years in prison.
Wow.
And the assistant U.S. attorney said, take the deal, Mr. Kiriakou, and you may live to meet your grandchildren. Wow. I ended up getting 23 months.
Wow.
But the name was never made public, and the guy was already retired. So compare that 45 years to what happened today.
So what should these guys get? By the way, I just want to say, it's nice to see you mentioned that I was at CNN for a long time. And so, I still have my journalism chops. One of my former producers sent me, before I even asked the question, says, listening, amazing. No, not one person on that chat raised a question about communicating on Signal. I just asked, and she said this before I even asked the question. I never even saw it. So it's nice to see that we're still simpatico. And the other thing is that, do you feel, does anybody, I'll ask you, Peggy, you there? How does this make you feel about the safety, how safe you are in this country, Peggy?
Peggy left, actually.
Peggy left. Okay. Then how's about Andrea? Unmute, Andrea. I'm coming to you. You guys
thank you, John.
Even with your cute hairstyle, we can't hear you.
I said, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, I said we couldn't hear you even with your cute hairstyle, but go on.
Thank you. John, what I first thought when I heard this is I haven't felt safe as soon as 45 was elected. I should say 47. I have not slept. It keeps me woke. The plane started crashing as soon as he took office, and he wanted to blame the former president. Mm-hmm. So who would look at a list? He left the information in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. He left the information in the bathroom, and he didn't accept accountability.
And he also successfully tipped the courts to a point where it doesn't matter if you're at the federal district level or the circuit appellate level or even the Supreme Court.
That's right.
Nothing's going to happen to him.
Nothing's going to happen to him. They're going to brush this under the rug. I live in Texas, where the measles outbreak is awful right now, and you don't hear anything. You don't hear anything. You don't hear what happened to the airplanes.
Yeah.
You know, may I add one thing, Don?
I think this will disappear.
I think so too. Soon, quickly. I'd like to add one thing about the Espionage Act. The Espionage Act was written in 1917 to combat German saboteurs during the First World War. It never mentions the words classified information because the classification system wasn't invented for another 35 years, and it's never been meaningfully updated. And so if we're serious about protecting information and we're serious about protecting whistleblowers who are coming forward with evidence of waste, fraud, abuse, illegality, or threats to the public health or public safety, which is the legal definition of whistleblowing, we've got to scrap this 108-year-old law and start from scratch again. And nobody has the guts to do it except for Ilhan Omar. She has twice sponsored a bill that would rewrite the Espionage Act and allow for what's called an affirmative defense. So if somebody like Ed Snowden, for example, finds waste, fraud, abuse, or illegality, and he goes to Congress or he goes to, whatever, the IG staff, the Inspector General staff, he can't be prosecuted. Well, even if you go through the chain of command, you can be prosecuted.
Yeah. So I want to play this, but Camille, I'm going to come to you next. So get ready, guys, unmute. So let's play. This is, you remember just this last week or weekend, I think it was this weekend, they revoked the security, what was it, level or whatever, access to classified security from several Democratic or Biden administration officials. And this is Adam Kinzinger discussing that. Watch.
So I woke up to MAGA being super angry that I don't have a security clearance and that Trump's thing meant nothing to me. What else you got, guys? You gonna strip my World War II badges? You gonna strip my Vietnam combat status? Good one.
Yeah, they stripped his security access, and he came on and said, I'm a former member of the military. I retired from military service a year ago. I haven't had a security clearance in a year, so I don't understand what they're doing. This is the gang, I believe, that couldn't shoot straight, that can't shoot straight. Camille, what say you?
Oh, I completely agree. I know it's idiocracy at its best. I mean, I keep telling people that they need to watch that movie if we've never watched that movie from the early 2000s because we're living it. But I think what I see is this is mediocre men who think that they don't have to follow by the rules, right? Like they have just zero accountability. And the fact that they thought that this was okay to do. I mean, I think they didn't ask the question. I think that they knew. I shouldn't give them that much credit. I think that they understand that that's how it was done, and they just don't care. They don't care who gets hurt. They don't care that it can hurt it can hurt Americans and hurt our national security. And I think it's really, really rich that this is also the party that talks about how strong America is and how it was so weak before.
Yeah.
And all it's doing is making us more weak. I mean, the hypocrisy is always dripping all the time.
My philosophy is always, Maureen Marfell, I think you'll agree with this. All you have to do is wait and karma will present itself. You don't have to go seek after revenge or to prove your point many times. You just sit back and you let them step in it themselves. What say you, Maureen? We can't hear you, Maureen. You guys, I'm gonna have to give you guys some TV professional tips about unmuting.
Definitely, I need some TV professional. I agree. Karma, yes, and
But that doesn't make you feel any better about the situation, I'm sure.
No, it's awful. I used to be in human resources. I think it was Amanda who said it. in the workplace, so many people would be fired by now that didn't follow security protocol. Don't they train this cabinet? What's going on with Hexstaff? He shouldn't even be in that role. Aren't they, or are they doing it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I want to play this.
Makes you sick inside.
John, did you want to respond to that before I play something?
I wanted to say real quickly, just to give you an idea of what happens if you're not one of the swells, that's on Fox News and such. I worked with a guy in the CIA's counterterrorism center. He was working the night shift one night, and he got a cable from the field saying, hey, we just broke into this email account. Here's the email account, and here's the password. It was a terrorist suspect. So he said, okay, cool. He went in and looked. There was nothing interesting in there. Then about an hour later, he gets another cable saying, sorry, inadvertently sent to you, meant to send it to ops, don't access the email account. He said, well, I already accessed it, but no harm done. There was nothing in it anyway. The next day, he was called into security. Did you access this email account? He said, yeah, they sent the cable to me. It wasn't my fault that they sent it to me accidentally. I am the analyst for this Al-Qaeda issue. So I looked at the email and there was nothing in there. They prosecuted him.
No.
And he took a plea to a felony, and he got 12 months of probation. But he lost his security clearance. He'll never work in government ever again. Well, compare that to what these guys did today, we learned that these guys did today. There's no comparison.
So John and Legends, we've been talking a lot about, the comparison to, butthurt emails, and John said, look, I'm not making excuses for Hillary Clinton, but it was, she should not have done it. It was a breach in protocol, so to speak, and standards. But this is Pete Hegseth. I think on protecting military. No. I want this one. Marco Rubio talking about Hillary's emails. Remember, he was in this chain as well. Here it is.
President of the United States, neither she nor any of these other people are going to be above the law, whether it's her or Eric Holder for what he did on Fast and Furious or any of these other folks. People are going to be held accountable if they broke the laws of this country. This president obviously is willing to protect his political cronies, but we're going to hold people accountable. Nobody is above the law, not even Hillary Clinton, even though she thinks she is.
It's interesting to hear him speak that way. And I just want to play. This is from Fox News right now. Okay, just a couple moments ago. Watch this. Jessica Tarlin.
Ratings on handling the economy, inflation, cost of living are all tanking. And we're seeing this administration's incompetence and recklessness on a scale unimaginable. I'm sure you guys saw this incredible Jeffrey Goldberg piece from right before we got on air a couple years ago about Goldberg, who is a journalist at The Atlantic, being invited into a private signal chat with all of our national security heads. So Rubio, Hegseth, Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, Scott Bessent's in there, et cetera. And they are planning on just Signal to drop bombs in Yemen. So they're not doing this in a skiff. They're doing it on an app that you and we all have on our phones. And it's obviously incredibly reckless, national security risks. I don't want to ever hear butthurt emails again. I don't know what's going to happen to anyone who's involved in something like this. But on top of it, you have the vice president. He's in there as well, contradicting Donald Trump on his policy on Europe. So all of this is going on. We're only a couple months into this administration. And when Carville says, let's see what they do, you get stuff like this.
Wow, that's exactly the opposite of what I thought she was going to say.
Really?
I thought she was going to put up some, I don't know, halfway excuse.
Well, not Jessica Tarlin. I mean, she's the Democrat.
Well, she's the Democrat
on
Fox.
Yeah, she's the Democrat on Fox News.
Wow.
What do you say to that, Monique?
The amount of incompetence is staggering to me. Since January 20th, I've sort of been in this little bubble where for a while, I just didn't even want to deal with it. It made me so sad. But now that I've discovered like Substack, I actually heard about this story, and I'm glad that you were doing it on Jim Acosta's Substack earlier. He talked about it, and I couldn't believe that this was happening. It's my question if anyone can answer this question for me, is what actually can be done? They're doing illegal things, unconstitutional things. They're ignoring the judges. What recourse do we have other than getting through this and voting some people out? Is there any legal recourse for this?
No, it's all up to the Attorney General, and by extension to the president.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Well, there goes that.
Sick.
Yeah. Marla, how do you feel about that?
Do you mean Marley?
It's Marley? Oh yeah, Marley, sorry. I had Marla.
I'm just really shocked. I just learned about this. I didn't hear about it. And I feel unsafe. I know they're not gonna follow through on this. There's no laws anymore. There aren't any rules. There's no accountability. I'm wondering how long have they been doing this? Like, what are the things that have happened in the world as far as national security since he's been president? Are they just on their cell phones? Like, are they going to continue to do it? Are our allies going to trust us? Will our allies give us information? Will they give us false information? Because, they're all willy-nilly with everything. It's just really scary because I feel like everything is just like somebody took a stack of cards and just threw it up in the air and it's just chaos. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Look, Marley, you're right about that. And by the way, just so the engagement is great. I just want to tell you guys, if you're tuning in now, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you hit the like, become a member. Also, subscribe. It's right at the bottom of your screen, right next to the Don Lemon Show logo. And the folks who are on now are at the highest tier of our membership, and they get to be on the TV and they get to ask experts like John here questions and comments. And so that's why this is different. This independent media thing is quite different than if you're sitting in front of the television and watching broadcast or cable. You're just watching them. They're telling you, you get to even direct us here. So it is important that you support us, because then you get to take part in the whole process. It's not just one way, me preaching to you. You get to tell me what you would like to hear, and we answer your questions as well. So make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the thumbs up. We appreciate your support here. But I got to say, John, that is a very good question that Marley brings up. I wonder if they're going through folks now, putting out, I don't know if it's a memo or telling people, look, you should not be communicating over these encrypted apps. Make sure you follow protocol and you do it the right way. Otherwise your ass is going to be on the chopping block. You think that's happening?
In a normal administration, I'd say absolutely, because there's got to be a tipping point. There's got to be a limit that even a president, can't go beyond. Otherwise, you're going to have people in the streets. Or you're going to have, the party in power thrown out in the midterm elections. With this administration, I'm not sure, but it kind of reminds me of something that happened back in, it was like 2000. I was still at the CIA at the time, 2002, 2003, I guess it was. We were talking about Iraq. I happened to be the note taker in a meeting that George Tenet, who was the CIA director, had with Condi Rice when she was the national security advisor. Yeah, national security advisor during Bush's first term. And they were arguing about a story that Condi had leaked to the Post that turned out to be untrue. And she outranked George because she was the national security advisor. And George is like, my position has been clear. This was your position. It was wrong. And finally she said, George, you're just going to have to take one for the team. And I'm wondering if that conversation is taking place at the White House right now. Is Trump just going to cover for everybody and pretend like this is no big deal? Mm-hmm. Or is either Waltz or Hegseth just going to have to take one for the team?
Someone's going to have to take one for the team. Is Anitra there? Anitra, should someone take one for the team? And if so, who should it be?
Well, I don't know somebody's going to have to do something, but I think he'll just act like it's nothing. I think no one will be accountable. I think Lady Liberty has lost her shield. I knew she didn't have it, but now we know she's taking it off. and she's out there and she's ready to mingle. What
What
in
you?
the world is going on?
I'm
You
gonna
can
say.
feel that.
I'm gonna say, as we say in the vernacular. What you mean? What you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that there's some bullshit in the game. And I'm gonna have to say it straight out like that. There is something in the sauce, and somebody's drinking it and eating it, and it is out of control, and it's boiling over. And next thing comes a fire. And the fire's hard to put out.
Yeah.
And so we are like 3 months in, 2 months in, whatever it is. We're not far enough in. There's another 3 years. They are destroying America. They're destroying it. And I have tears in my eyes about it, because I realized for the first time that it's just not what I thought it might be.
Yeah.
And it's painful.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where we're headed. So
Did
take
I get
one for the
to?
team, don't take one for the team.
Go on. I'm sorry, Nitra. Keep going. I thought you were done.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't matter at this point. I think no matter what we do, as long as they're in power and they have most of the power and the people in the right places, we are fighting a losing battle, but we still have to fight. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. I have to agree with the folks who are in the
Thanks, John,
chat.
and thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I agree with the folks in the chat. Someone in the chat said, Lemon Legends, you're making us proud. Legends are making us proud today. I have to say, I love doing this. Did everyone get on? Did I miss someone who's in the chat who didn't get to speak yet? Go ahead, please. Who is it?
Hi, Roseanne.
Hey,
from
Roseanne.
California.
How are you? Welcome back. What say
Thank
you,
you.
Roseanne, today? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I just love it. This is only day 64. And again, John, you're always talking about evidence and receipts and everything. Well, this is the best evidence of fools running about. And it's to me, it's utterly futile for us to even imagine that these people will do the right thing, because we know that they won't. It's going to be swept under the rug, and he will come up with yet another excuse. Oh yeah, well, I didn't know anything about it. Okay. And the people who follow him, the cult, once again, they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and they'll say, yeah, okay, this is the way it is. So I'm feeling more and more alone with our neighbors to the north and the south and across the pond and everything, because he is isolating us from everyone. And when the shit starts to fall, there will be nobody coming to help us.
Yeah. Are you guys, let me see the chat. Is anybody at least, I mean, this is an awful story. And again, I do believe that John's right and everyone in the chat's right, that our legends are right, that this is probably going to get swept under the rug. We'll see, but I wish there was more pushback from our lawmakers. I see you, Nicole. I agree as well. But I wonder if what you're seeing, these protests across the country, the Bernie and AOC rallies, if that's helping anyone feel like perhaps something is on the way that will at least put some parameters or some control on, the tyranny that folks believe that we're under right now. Show of hands, May Money, you guys feel that? Yeah, you guys do? Okay, I'm going to say something that's very unpopular because at 6 o'clock we have to let John go. But John, how did you like this experience where you got to speak to the folks? It's great, right?
This
to
was
awesome. From people.
It was awesome. It's a great idea. Every one of those questions was a substantive, serious question. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Really did.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Let me just double check and make sure before I let you go. Okay, here we go. I just want to say this. This is according to Ryan Grimm. Okay.
Yeah, he's terrific.
Yeah, Ryan Grimm is terrific. Here's what Ryan says. The reason that Jeffrey Goldberg's name popped up in Signal for Michael G. Walls is that he was already leaking to Goldberg. That's what Ryan Grimm says. An ally in some internal Trump administration fights, per a source familiar. Probe possible. Look at you guys. Look at my legends. Legends, you're amazing. That's what Ryan Grimm says. And Ryan is with not, God, what's it? Is it The Hill? I forget which. Who is it?
Or The Intercept?
No,
not The Intercept.
He's with one of those. I think it's affiliated with The Hill somehow or whatever, but he's really, Ryan is really great. I was on their program. I forget the exact thing, and I should know because I was on the program. But guys,
he's Breaking Points and Drop Site News.
Breaking Points.
That's right.
And what else? What's the other one, Peter?
Breaking Points and Drop Site News.
Yeah, Breaking Points. I knew about Breaking Points. I was on that. I don't know about Drop Site News. So we'll see. Real quickly, what do you think the chances are? He says there's going to be a pro possible. No.
They've got to do. They at least have to go through the motions of a probe. Yeah. But like I say, maybe we see that George Tenet, Condi Rice situation again, where somebody has to take one for the team.
One for the team. Yeah. John, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Thank
okay.
You.
Great
Looking forward
work.
to that, Don. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Got legends.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, John. Legends. I'm just going to put you up. I'm going to take myself off the screen. Legends. Uh-oh. Oops, what did I do? Legends, you guys made me so proud today. I'm not kidding. You guys were so awesome. You were like probing correspondents and analysts and contributors. I'm so proud of you. I continue to offer you this service. I want to get to spend more time with you, but I have to run because I have a meeting, and you're going to hear an announcement about it. There'll be something in the Times, I believe, on what I'm going to the meeting for. So I have to run. I have to cut it a little bit short today. I wish we had more chance to speak, and we will. I promise you. I'll have an extra chat for you guys, or it'll just be a legend show. It was supposed to be just a legend show today, but then we had this breaking news, and I'm glad we did because May Money didn't know about it. So she got educated, as well as you guys. You guys are so great. Seriously, I'm so, so proud of you. You ask even better questions than I do, okay? So you guys be well. And we love the hair. We love the knots. What's her name has these beautiful knots today on her head. We love it, love it, love it. So I wish I could grow my hair like that. Guys, thank you so much. If you are not a member, make sure you become a member. We would love for you to become a legend and be on the screen and get to ask questions and be like a big correspondent, anchor, analyst, or whatever. So thank you for your support. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you. Several people gifted some memberships, so we appreciate it. I'm going to go hop on to this next meeting. You're going to hear about it soon, and I thank you all for joining. You know I love you to pieces. So as I always say, we'll be back, by the way, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. On 8 o'clock, we're going to drop something, so make sure you tune into that. I think there's going to be a reroute from this. But we love you so much for watching, and as I say on every single one of my lives after I finish, turn the TV off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.